What are the anti-inflammatory effects of GHK copper? In this video, we'll deconstruct what GHK copper can do from an inflammatory perspective, what it can prevent when it comes to skin aging, skin damage, and also some of the myths that are out there, some of the hype that GHK copper is not going to cure everything on the skin, and so we're going to uncover what happens to your body when it's under enormous amounts of stress and the oxidative burden and how that relates to skin health. And by the end of this video, you'll know exactly how one tiny tripeptide called GHK copper could potentially change the expression and the health of your skin. And let's jump in. So I'm Regan Archibald, founder of Ageless Future. My team and I, we put together a body operation system for every human that we work with. Your health is far too valuable to ignore. And so diagnostics are where you pay down that ignorance tax when it comes to your health. And GHK copper, if it helps with inflammation, the very best question you can ask is, why is inflammation there in the first place? And so let's jump in. So here's a study on this little tripeptide. So for those of you who are new to peptides, welcome. So good to have you here. GHK copper is just 3 amino acid chains with copper attached to it. And what it does is it goes into the DNA and it resets all of the pathways and the signaling. So there's studies that show that it helps with stem cell proliferation, it helps with elastin and collagen production. There's so many great things, but one of the interesting things is it does seem to prevent oxidative stress, which leads to inflammation, buildup in the skin. And specifically, they looked at human fibroblasts. So this study is called the Human Tripeptide GHK Copper in Prevention of Oxidative Stress in Human Fibroblasts. It was done in 2012, and this was cell and molecular biology labs. They used cultured human fibroblasts as a model of tissue inflammation and oxidative stress. So they're actually able to see exactly what was going on here. There's no placebo control. They're just analyzing what happens to the tissue. So they did look at tissue without GHK copper and then tissues that had the GHK copper. What they found is that the GHK copper significantly reduced pro-inflammatory and oxidative markers while increasing antioxidant activity, supporting its role as an anti-inflammatory, signaling molecule, and it also helps clean the upstream inflammatory wiring rather than just blocking symptoms. So could it be helpful? Absolutely, but think of it in 3 ways. Number 1, it's a signal cleanup. So GHK copper, all it's doing is reminding your body how to express the collagen and elastin production that you had when you were younger. So when you turn on those genes, now all of a sudden you get the light switch turns on, you understand what pathway you want to go on. So in GHK copper, it works on the DNA and gene expression so that it reduces that noisy inflammation. Now, oxidative stress, where does it come from? Well, the epic triggers, the emotional stress can definitely mute out some of the signals from these genes. You can get it from poor methylation. That means you're not getting adequate levels of B vitamins, you're not making glutathione or antioxidants. You may have poor sleep, that can trigger it. We also see it with mitochondrial dysfunction. So the mitochondria, the energy packs of the cells, are like little battery packs that are consolidated inside of the cell, and that's where ATP production comes from. And so if your mitochondria are losing their vitality, or if they're in a cell danger response where your body has some kind of external threat, the mitochondria don't make energy as effectively as we'd like it to. So think of GHK copper as like it turns down the fire alarm and it fixes the wiring. So it basically turns off the settings so that you can get in there and fix the wiring before the fire actually starts. And this is where I love this whole creating a body operation system for yourself, is that we look and we say, okay, where do I have more oxidative stress? Where's this inflammation coming from? And how can GHK copper help? Well, number 1, it changes the signaling. So it can be very powerful at turning off the signals of pro-inflammation, turning on signals of regeneration. The second thing is it turns down the heat without shutting down the system. So if you look at the studies, the one I just referenced, or other studies, they found that GHK-copper with patients who have expressed higher levels of IL-6 and tumor necrosis factor alpha, what it does is it reduces that effect without blunting or suppressing the symptoms. It's not like a steroid where you just go in and just completely inactivate any inflammatory pathway. So you'll still get inflammation, but far less from GHK-copper than you would from like a steroid, so that your body can actually maintain its intelligence. The other thing is you have lower NF-kappa beta inflammation signaling. So this is a major inflammatory pathway that can lead to chronic disease states in the body. And when this NF-kappa beta is overexpressed, this is where we end up with hardening of the arteries. This is where your joints feel really sore after a workout. And so the peptide bypass system, one of the things we've uncovered is that if you have these inflammatory markers in your gut test, or if we see it in your blood labs, there's always an underlying cause. And this is where it's really important to look at your objective data from the labs, couple it with what you're experiencing, and then getting the proper assessment. And my team at Ageless Future are phenomenal at this. The third thing is on this oxidative stress. This is a big burden for all of us. And you see people who have massive amounts of oxidative stress. You think of kind of the rock and roll artists that we all love. I still can't believe that Rolling Stones is still just a Rolling Stone. They're still just producing and they're going on tour. They're still doing it, but the oxidative stress is definitely set in. And so what GHK-copper does is it offsets that balance and it increases what's called SOD, or the superoxide dismutase. And SOD and glutathione, these are two of the major antioxidants in your body to reduce that burden on the skin. So oxidative stress, you want to think of this as the thing that is causing the wrinkles in the skin, the thing that's causing that unraveling of the DNA, so that you lose that gene expression for better collagen and better elastin production. The final thing is when you look at this oxidative stress, the fibrinogen regulation. So fibrinogen is another lab marker tied to inflammation, and often we'll see this marker compromised in patients who notice that they're aging faster. And so if you look in the mirror or if you look at pictures, how did you look 5 years ago, 10 years ago, even longer? And maybe you'll say that, well, there could be something else going on. And so GHK-copper, not only does it help recruit the expression that you want, helps clear the debris, but for it to stay gone and for you to really reverse this issue with the skin, it starts by the gut. Getting a stool test, in some cases, microbiota transplant is really important to re-inoculate the gut, especially if you've had aggressive parasites, certain infections that are overgrown in the gut, like candida, or even in the small intestine bacterial overgrowth, also known as SIBO. All these things lead to greater levels of oxidative burden on your body. So GHK-copper, what it doesn't do is it doesn't come without risks. I mean, you can apply it topically. It seems to be generally safe. But if you already have an overabundant supply of copper, this may throw off some of the hormones in your body. So you want to be careful with that. You don't want copper toxicity, especially if you're on a copper IUD. The second thing that can be dangerous is when you inject GHK-copper, make sure that you're getting it from a 503A or 503B compounding facility. Work with prescribing providers who can get you the cleanest source of the peptides, because GHK-copper, if it's not buffered correctly, not only does it dysregulate any other peptide that it's combined with, which can be devastating to the impacts of those other peptides, but if you have the right buffering agents, the right pH, and the right solvents, GHK-copper plays really nice with other peptides like BPC-157 or thymosin beta-4 or even KPV, but that's only if it's done by a pharmacist who actually understands the pharmacokinetics and how everything interacts together. So GHK copper, it is purple. You'll notice that on the skin and in the bottle. And if it's something that you want to go deeper into and actually learn some of the ways that you can activate the GHK copper and start changing your skin for good at the cellular level, then check out my next video on what GHK copper does, and go to my website, agelessfuture.com. Learn more from my team. I'm Regan Archibald. I'll see you on the next video.